Hello everyone. I'm so excited today. We have amongst us Anya. And just a few months ago, you were kind of preparing. You were sitting in the classrooms and taking down notes and writing down test series and all. And just in a short time, you're here. So it must be a great feeling.
It is a great feeling because finally, after the hard work that you have put in and the expectations of family, friends and people and your expectations and goals, finally you see that this has certainly resulted into something big, something for which you have waited all these years. So certainly I'm very happy to be here.
Okay. And just I would like to know who brought this good news to you? How did you come to know about this?
It was I personally. I scrolled down the sacred PDF and I just searched my name and I could find my name in rank 60. I just checked and rechecked and finally it was revealed that.
So your heart must be beating loud at that point of time.
Yeah, it was.
So you did Control F, or you actually went down the whole list, reading the name, reading?
No, I just saw my name and I just stopped there.
And who was the first person you informed?
My mother. I just called her. I was in training center in Vadodara and Railway. So I just called my mother and I just shared the good news with her.
So tell us about this journey, how your journey so far.
Well, my journey has been quite interesting and till now it has been quite fulfilling because in the professional sphere I had a goal and I achieved that. I became an IAS, and in the personal sphere also I think I've grown, like the values of patience and the value of discipline. This exam process taught me and I have become more disciplined, more patient now. And I have seen certain challenges, there have been certain periods where I've seen downs and this has made me grow as a person. So this period has also been a learning experience. I have had the support of my friends, teachers, family. So overall it has been a fulfilling and interesting experience till now.
So you said there were challenging moments also. Yes. So there must have been moments where you might have feel a little demotivated, or maybe I'm not sure how to term that, but you might have. There are a lot of stress moments which candidates feel in this long drawn journey. So any such moment which occurred to you and how you overcame it, that could be a source of inspiration for others.
Specifically, I remember the year 2017 when I gave my second attempt. In 31st May that year, the results of UPSC came and I was there in the list, 579 rank. And that evoked mixed feelings in me because I was expecting an IAS rank for myself and I was not ready to give the exam second time. So this process of accepting the result took a lot of time and I couldn't prepare for the prelims, and when I went inside the exam hall on June 18, I had this baggage that I've not studied and I was not emotionally stable at that time, and I think because of that I did a lot of silly mistakes in the paper and the result was that I missed prelims by 1 mark. So that was a low point for me because I knew that why I had failed. So, but then what happened is I recovered, I said, no, this can't be me. I have to get up and do something and achieve my goal, what I have always wanted to.
That's kind of a roller coaster ride. You getting a rank in the first attempt and then you even failing to clear the prelims. Please take note of this. She failed to clear the prelims, but she didn't quit. She bounced back with a thumping rank, with a thumping success in the next attempt. That's really inspirational.
Thank you.
And how did, who brought you in, or how did you got into this, this journey? Like, who was this inspiration? What was the idea which brought you here in this world of preparing for UPSC?
There was no specific inspiration. About IAS, we used to read in the daily newspapers like what an IAS exactly does. But I had a rough idea, and in family also my parents used to talk about an IAS. But then what happened is when I had to decide how I want to spend the next 30-40 years of my life, what profession I want, then I wanted a profession where the professional life has a public service angle in it, and along with that it is diverse. So I found IS is uniquely placed in this sphere. So then I felt then IS hi karna hai fir, because this is what I wanted for myself.
What was your optional?
My optional was sociology.
So, how did optional help you in your preparation?
The optional sociology was helpful for me because not only is it is scoring in the optional, because with little preparation, it has a small syllabus, so you can prepare it in less time. It is rewarding, and the convergence it has with GS1 syllabus is also quite helpful, because one does not have to spend separate time in preparing for sociology syllabus of GS1. And it also helps you in essay, and if we see comprehensively, the understanding that we get about the society, the sections such as informal sector, they help us in GS3. Then the thing about women's movement and the whole section about underprivileged section, that helps us in GS2. So there's a lot of convergence, and overall it improves one's understanding about the society, and it will certainly help us in administration also.
Okay. Anya, tell me your favorite thinker of sociology.
Max Weber has been my favorite thinker.
And why?
Because he combined the idea of how capitalism arose and how it was the Protestantism which led to its rise, and it was quite interesting for me to read for the first time that there is a nexus between business on one hand and religion on the other, and his focus on rationality is something which I found that it is there in the society. The rational structures that are being present in the society. So as we are progressing, rational structures are being erected. So that is something which I found that as a common person also will observe this.
So Anya, Max Weber, your favorite thinker, and amongst Indian scholars?
I think M.N. Srinivas is someone whom I admire.
So a little more like how you see him and his thoughts.
I think M.N. Srinivas' concept on caste and on urban India was quite realistic. He talked about the fact that caste in the present times is not a system. Caste has now become like block. Caste is more of an identity now. So when we see the current scenario in India today, we find that it has a lot of truth to this. For example, during elections, we see that castes as block become quite active, and the whole idea of caste as a system based on hierarchy, purity, pollution principles, that is losing its relevance. So in that way, I found Srinivas to be quite realistic in his assessment of the Indian situation.
So that's how we find sociology relevant to understand the society around us, right? And you talked about Weber also in terms of the religion and bureaucracy. Also, he's relevant, and now Srinivas also. And so that's nice. And sociology, how did you approach? How was your approach for sociology?
Sociology as a subject, it has to be approached based on its syllabus. Otherwise, sociology can be vast. So I did not have a background in sociology. So for me, the first and foremost thing was reading the syllabus. And when I read the syllabus and tried to cover each and every keyword in that, so I studied all the relevant study material, made notes out of it, and I had a file-like booklet wherein I had notes based on every keyword, and that was the way I approached sociology. And apart from that, the current affairs, the newspapers, they helped me to make my sociology answers more relevant. So my approach was quite simple in this way.
And you were associated with us also, and I went through your answer sheets also for in the test series also. So how did you approach this answer writing? Many students find it difficult, like they know the things, but they're not able to produce them on the paper. So some suggestions to the student community.
Yeah, the whole answer structure must have three portions. One is introduction, body and conclusion. That is the first. Now, what to write in introduction? Now, when a question is asked, in the introduction we can either write the definition or explain what exactly the question is demanding. And based on the keyword explain or elucidate or define, we have to produce the content, the second paragraph, and we have to write what the content demands, and in that we can put the name of the sociologist, the current example of a sociological phenomena or any data to substantiate the fact that we want to present. And in conclusion, we should conclude the entire answer in such a way that it gives an understanding to the examiner that what we wanted to say in the last one page.
Guys, I've gone through her answer sheets and she writes so beautiful, and she has talked about content, and apart from that, the visual of her answers is so appealing that it's so catchy. When she writes the name of a thinker, she puts that a block around the name of the thinker. She underlines vital points, and there is such a good indentation. In by indentation, the space which is left from the margin, and all the points which are related to a particular theme, they are indented equally. And were you using a scale or a ruler? Because that was the kind of impression I got, because it was so much well aligned.
No, I didn't use a ruler. It was just a natural thing. I feel that whenever an examiner sees your paper, it should be eligible. He should take the least amount of time to read it. So in that effort, I tried to make my answers legible.
So I have some test series hard copies also, and we would like we will if you can see on the screen also. So she highlights the name of the thinkers and the key points, and her way of writing is brevity, in the sense she compacts so many ideas in limited number of words. She omits sometimes less important words like articles, prepositions, and she focuses more on the idea which the sentence seems to convey. You also quoted examples, I remember. In a question on is religion relevant or not, you came up with an example of Lakshmi Puja held in Bombay Stock Exchange, and Vishwakarma being celebrated in industries. So this is how she was bringing so much ideas, and even when if there are not enough thinkers, she creates her own beautiful ideas. And as you can see on the screen, in this question 3A, which was on like, is India a religious society? This was what I was talking about. So you highlighted the name of Malinowski, R.K. Sharan, and in just one line, she is writing down what he has said. She's not spending too much time in elaborating. And like many people who just feed in thinkers without seeing their relevance, she is not like that. The thinkers, she has quoted the line which they have said, they are so much relevant. So how this institute helped you, and how in preparing for sociology?
I had enrolled for the sociology test series for this exam, and the test series really helped me a lot, because the discussions in the class by Mushtaba sir, they were long winding discussions for 3-4 hours, and they comprehensively covered the topic. For example, we are talking about sociology as a science, then he comprehensively addressed the whole topic. And when I made notes out of it and I went back and I read and reread them, and they proved to be of much help during the final examination. And also the current examples that sir quoted in the classroom, that also helped me too much. And interestingly, a few questions that was asked in the test series came in the exam, and that was also quite a help. I remember the question on Me Too movement, which came in the sociology exam, was asked by sir in the class. It was discussed by him in the class. Similarly, the question on media as the fourth pillar of the society, that was also discussed by sir in the class, and that was asked. So not only in the answer writing sphere, but also in the sphere of questions directly coming from the test series, I was helped by it. And I would especially like to talk about paper 2. I especially wanted some help in paper 2, and that was something which I got. because paper 2 was a difficult point for me. I couldn't gather a lot of thinkers in paper 2, and this test series improved my understanding of paper 2.
Anya, you have scored this high rank with sociology as an optional, as we discussed. So we'll like to know a little more in detail, like how you prepared for it and the strategy which the new students who are looking forward for this optional, they should adopt. So your message on like do's and don'ts, and what are the suggestions to those students who are looking forward for sociology as an optional.
First, I would like to talk about my preparation. I chose sociology optional in my first attempt because I did not have much time to prepare for an optional, and therefore I wanted to choose an optional which takes least amount of time and is interesting for me. So I took sociology and it amply awarded me. In my first attempt I secured 267 marks, and I prepared for it only for 3 months, the time between prelims and mains. And the thing in my preparation was that I solely focused on the class notes. I made notes and notes out of those notes, and I just revised and re-revised those notes. And then I even did not write a lot. I did not practice even a single test series. However, I felt that my note making practice helped me, and in the exam I could easily complete my answers on time. In this attempt, what I did was I worked on my earlier weaknesses. I found out that I needed to work upon paper 2, and therefore I focused on paper 2 this time. So this time also I read from many sources like IGNOU textbooks, from other books, and made notes out of it. And through these notes only I revised and re-revised, and also substantiated them with the current examples. And this time I wrote test series, and this test series experience and the discussions in the classroom helped me to improve my marks in sociology. So this was the preparation strategy that I followed. Now I would like to talk about the strategy that other people who are preparing for this exam can follow. The first do for this exam is that please read the syllabus and the past year question paper before choosing this optional. So when you read the syllabus and the past year question paper, you see how comfortable you are in writing this paper. And secondly, if one has a knack for sociology, then one should opt for it. For example, if one is interested in knowing about why farmer movement is there today, why student unrest is there today, what is there which underlies the urbanization process in India today. So if one is interested and curious to know about these things, then sociology is the optional to go for. And third point is answer writing skill. As it is a humanities optional, answer writing skill is very important, because one has to convey a number of ideas in limited amount of time and in limited space. So if one is comfortable in writing such answers, then one can choose it. Also, one suggestion is that before choosing any optional, one must read the syllabus and the past year question papers. For example, you can go for anthropology, psychology, sociology, political science, go through the syllabus and past year questions, and finally one can zero in where one most feel comfortable. So this is my do part. And for don't, I would like to point, the first suggestion is that don't read too many books, because the effort should be to read less but write that in notes and revise and re-revise that notes. This is one. The second is that one must not blindly remember and quote the thinkers. Quote thinkers only when one can produce an idea associated to that thinker, and when that thinker is relevant to the answer that one is writing. For example, if one is writing an answer on urbanization of India, one has to quote thinkers who are related, who have written on the topic. One cannot quote other thinkers who have not written on it. And also the GS preparation that one does, like the reports, World Bank reports and the data, they are also quite handy in supplementing one's answer in sociology. And finally, before the exam, practice a lot of answers and please get them checked by people who know how exactly the pattern of marking is. This will definitely help, and please keep on revising and practicing. That is all I want to say.
So what are the key points behind this high score, 300 plus and 60 rank and 300 plus score in sociology?
This answer writing, I had a specific approach this time. I had a two-pronged strategy. One was on content improvement and second was on presentation. So as far as content is concerned, I tried to improve the quantity and quality of my content. In that, I read IGNOU material. I had not read it in my first attempt, and I tried to make my concepts more and more clear. And when it came to answer writing, I tried to connect those concepts with the answer, with the current examples. For example, this time there was a question on Durkheim's theory on suicide and how can one explain the high rate of suicides in India through this. So it basically one has to connect the Durkheim's theory of suicide and the 4 types of suicide that is there, and one has to say about student suicide in India, about farmer suicide in India, about the suicide by women and other sections. So in this way, Durkheim's suicide theory has to be read in the context of the current suicide. So one has to identify whether farmer's suicide is anomic or egoistic. So this has to be done when one is reading the newspaper every day. So in mind, one has to analyze that where can I link the theory in sociology to the reality or the example in the present day. So this was one. The second point was that I prepared a note wherein I had a list of examples ready where I could quote them in the answers. For example, the Dalit protests and the visit of any official from other countries, dignitaries, and how they dressed in Indian attire and how they worshipped, how they went to Indian religious places. That can be used as an answer in secularism. And as I have written in my answers about Vishwakarma Puja being done in Indian industries, so how religion is still important in India. So overall, what the observations one has in everyday life, what observation one gathers from newspapers, magazines, one has to collect it in one place and write it in the exam. And the third point is that whenever one is quoting the thinkers, one has to underline that so that the examiner doesn't miss this, because one has to show that one's answer is fully substantiated. And finally, the syllabus must be completed and revised so much that one can interconnect the topics. For example, the topic of tribal displacement can be connected with environmental issue, and somewhere the plight of tribal women can also be connected. So this mastery over concepts and the syllabus is the takeaway. And this was the way I approached this exam.
And many times people, they quote thinkers and they fail to show their relevance to the question in particular. So that's something which should not be done.
Yeah, because one has to quote the thinker only when the thinker is relevant, and one has to write the idea that the thinker has. For example, when I am writing an answer on caste, caste importance in politics, then Rajni Kothari can be quoted and M.N. Srinivas can be quoted. Similarly, when one is writing an answer on villages in India or village studies in India, one can quote Andre Bete, one can quote Surinder Jodhka. So only when one is relevant and one has ideas to prove that why one is quoting it, one should write about the thinkers. And if one does not know about a thinker in an answer, then it is okay. There are World Bank reports, there are other data which one can use to substantiate. There is no need to unnecessarily bring up thinkers if one does not know about them.
Okay, so you suggest against overthinkerization if they are not relevant, and we shouldn't forcefully feed thinkers if they lack relevance, and one should not be fearful of this. So there is really a phobia in the minds of students that we can't remember the thinkers beyond a particular limit, and what to do when we don't know the thinkers. So this is not something students should be afraid of.
No, certainly one should only produce what one knows, and there is no need to unnecessarily bring up thinkers and names if one does not know.
This was Anya with us, and we are proud of you, Anya. We are proud that we have been associated with you. You have been associated with us in different capacities in sociology, in polity enrichment, in ethics, and we are so proud of you. Just like all those people who would be associated with you in this long journey of your success, and we wish that you bring great glory for the country, for the people, for everyone, and we wish you all the good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for coming to us and giving us such deep, such clear thoughts.
Thank you.
And, okay, thank you a lot.